Well, ladies and gentlemen, thanks again for joining us. And joining us today is none other than UFC featherweight Herbert Burns, who just had an impressive win over Evan Dunham at UFC 250. Herbert, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
You got it.
Let's chat about everything.
Let's chat about everything. So the first thing I want to know is this fight with Evan Dunham. Obviously, competing during a pandemic is certainly not normal. How did that fight come to be?
I was trying to get a fight. Like, my plan was to fight on the UFC 250, but it was supposed to be in Brazil. So after I came back from Brazil from Gilbert's victory against Demian Maia, I back into training, but it was kind of hard to train. The gyms were closing, so I had to run and do some conditioning, do boxing. Luckily, Gilbert have a garage gym, so I was going to his house and training there. And when the UFC announced that they were going to be back on business, I jumped the opportunity to keep training to see if the fight would happen. But the thing there was kind of hard to get opponents. So when Gilbert was set to fight on the third, it was 23rd first, right? The date, because that got pushed to the 30th. I wanted to fight on the same date, so I kept training. Couldn't fight on the 23rd. They pushed the 30th. They didn't get any opponent on the 30th, and then on the 6th they announced the card, and then I called Ali Abdelaziz, my manager. Hey, bro, they released the card. I want to fight. He's like, don't stop training, don't stop dieting. I will see what I can do. And then the night time and that same day, he called me. He offered Evan Dunham, but he said it won't be a featherweight bout. It will be a catchweight, if that's okay with you. It's a catchweight or lightweight. I said that I prefer to do a catchweight, definitely. So yeah, they set up the fight, and that's how the opportunity came. You gotta be ready. You gotta adapt to in those situations. You cannot sit on your couch and just pray for things to get better. You gotta be proactive and be preparing yourself to the opportunity, and that's exactly what I did.
Right. And of course, you mentioned that the fight was a catchweight. It was contested at 150 pounds. Obviously, you said that was not your idea, but was that something that was more dependent on the opponent, that it was Evan Dunham, who was a lightweight in years past, or was that more due to the coronavirus and trying to avoid a weight cut on short notice?
Everything, but I could make 145 if they offer me a guy that could be on the weight limit of the featherweight division, but they didn't. They couldn't find an opponent that was willing to face me at short notice. So when Evan Dunham stepped in, I'm thankful for that. And so it was a catchweight at that time, but I want the UFC to count me as a featherweight. But if they need me to step in a catchweight and a lightweight bout with an interesting name, I will definitely do that.
Absolutely. And of course, it was a very impressive victory, a very impressive performance, a first-round submission by rear naked choke. Can you walk me through that finish? I know on the broadcast they pointed out the very, very savvy arm switch that you had, where you switched the choke arm as you were transitioning. Can you walk through that submission for some of our more grappling enthused viewers?
Yes. When I get the body lock on the back there, it's kind of hard to escape. I love the takedown because it doesn't require a lot of fighting or a lot of like strength to do. It's just technique, it's pure technique there. So when I did the takedown, he tried to kick the leg out. A lot of guys try to do that. But when you do that, you're going to fall. You're going to lose your balance. So he tried to kick the leg out. He kind of fell into my lap. I already had one hook inside. So my goal was to put the second hook. When I put the second hook, I didn't let him trap any of my arms. I like to work with both my arms over his shoulder so I can easily get the choke. But I had to strike a little bit. He's super experienced. He was closing his chin down. And I didn't have a good angle to the choke when I got the figure four locked. So when I body locked there, I squeezed the figure four. I'm like, I need to turn him to the other side. But while I was turning, I have two options. He could just give up and let me turn, or he could just resist and he would be belly down. And he opened up to strikes if he does that. So he chose to roll over. As I'm rolling over, I'm setting up the choke with the other arm, and it was very deep here with the chin down, but my elbow was aligned with his nose and can squeeze the arteries there with no problem, even if his chin is down. So it was just keep the pressure to get a tap.
Absolutely. And of course, after the fight, there was some concern over a potential leg injury that happened over the course of the fight. Have you been to a doctor? Have you heard anything back as far as a diagnosis or a timetable on that injury?
It was a cut. When we were fighting, I was trying to push him against the fence, and I accidentally kind of kicked the fence. So I was like trying to push him. I was trying to place my leg between his legs, but he moved quickly. So it was a huge cut. I have the image here on my phone if you guys want to see. It was not a nice cut. It's strong images, guys. I'm sorry, but yeah, you guys can see here.
Oh, that is gnarly.
So it was just the cut. So there is like 10 days and now 8 days for me to remove the stitches. And then when I can walk, I'll be back on training. My foot's a little swollen. It's hard to walk. I have my crutch friends if I need to go anywhere, but I'm not leaving the house so far. So it's 10 days.
Right. So I'm very glad to hear that obviously it's nothing serious, but I mean, that cut does not look pretty. So I'm sorry I had to go through that. Now, I noticed on social media, you said, you know, I just ate, I just competed, but I'm still hungry. I still have that fire. I still want to compete. Given that the injury is only a 10-day turnaround, how soon are you willing to get back in there?
End of July, start of August. That would be a good day for me. And I gave the names already. Who was on my radar? Ryan Hall, Bryce Mitchell. But it's really up to the UFC if they want to match me up against another guy that has a potential. I want a fight that gives me a potential to get into the rankings. That's my goal. So a guy that you give me this opportunity, it will be thrilled. In July or August, I'll be ready for it.
Absolutely. And as a grappling fan, I can only speak for myself, but I know I speak for more people when I say fights between you and Bryce Mitchell or Ryan Hall would definitely be standout fights. The grappling level would be insane. So absolutely on board for those fights. And it's going to be interesting to see how the UFC match makes you there. Now, when you look at two of those guys who are both in the featherweight division and both have great grappling as well as you, do you believe that you have the best grappling in the featherweight division?
There's a lot of good grapplers. Ryan Hall has a good grappling game. Kron Gracie also. Myself, I think we are the top 3 guys on the grappling because we not accomplished grappling only on MMA, but also we did on the jiu-jitsu scene. But it's not only grappling; it's MMA, and I believe if all the grapplers, I have the more completely tool sets. I have jiu-jitsu, I have wrestling, and I have striking.
Right. And that complete toolbox is something that you've been talking about for a long time. You train at Sanford Mma, which was formerly Hard Knocks MMA, under Henry Hooft, one of the renowned kickboxing and striking coaches in the sport. Can you speak a little bit about your training at Sanford Mma, both with the high-level coaches and training partners there?
Yeah, we have a great team there. Sanford Mma, for me, it's the best thing in the world. We have like Henry Hooft, Sean Soriano, Kiman Dupe, Marcus Jackson, all the guys helping us with the striking. Have my brother help me. I do a little bit of boxing for Derek Santos also. He's a great boxing coach, like there's 9 world champions under his belt. And we have like definitely, when I say we have the best in the world, we have the best in the world. Like Gokhan Saki, Rob von Rosmalen, Vitor Belfort. So we are good everywhere. Kami Barzini and Greg Jones on wrestling. There's me. There's Gilbert on the jiu-jitsu. And so we are a complete team. We will do great things this year. We already have a champion, Usman. Maybe the belt, if Usman and Gilbert fight, the belt definitely will stay on the gym, but I think we can have other championship belts there. We have a ONE FC belt for Angela Sung, for Martin Young. So, yeah, the team is very good.
Very decorated. I'll at Sanford MMA for sure. You mentioned your brother Gilbert. Obviously, you two have a very intense and serious rapport as brothers. You help each other train. You are in the UFC at the same time. You're both in pursuit of UFC titles, both coming from the worlds of grappling. What's it been like to kind of grow up in the UFC alongside Gilbert, to have him there as you both go through these journeys together?
It's been great. Gilbert and I, we push each other. I fought, I won by knockouts. Then Gilbert fought and won. And then he fought again and won by this, knocked out Damon. Then he fought again and beat Woodley in fashionable fashion. And then I had to fight again to prove myself that, hey, you did a great fight, but I got 2 finishes. So we joke with each other, but we definitely push each other. It's great to have him alongside me on my journey. And I think he's going to be the first Brazilian welterweight champion. And the Burns brothers are going to make history in the UFC. That's definitely.
Right. And one of the things that stands out about Gilbert's quest for the UFC title is, in order to get that belt, he may have to go through Kamaru Usman, who is not only a training partner with him and you at Sanford MMA, but also managed by the same manager, Ali Abdelaziz. You're all part of Dominance MMA, all part of Sanford MMA. Do you believe that there might be any tensions for that fight, or is this viewed as strictly business and everything will go back to normal afterwards?
It should be a strictly business. If it has tension, I think hopefully after the fight, the tension dies. But I think Gilbert and Kamaru are both professionals. Ali also is very professional. The guys from the team, they will understand. Kamaru's training here. He was training here yesterday, Sanford. And I think everyone wants to be the champion. They don't hate each other. They love each other. They like each other, but there's only one champion. And you can't deny someone a title fight because they just train with you. I think that's not a good enough reason, because the guy's pursuing the same dream as you, and the champion has way more money, gets more opportunity, and build his legacy, and everyone wants to do that. And there's only one guy can do that. So I think they should just strictly professional. Hopefully there will be no drama, no anything if the fight gets booked, and then they fight, the better man wins, and things go back to normal.
Right, and certainly rooting for respect in that fight, rooting for everyone to stay friendly, and hopefully if that fight is made, it's a great fight. It certainly looks like it will be on paper. Now, I'm not sure how official this is, but your brother Gilbert Burns did tweet out a bunch of emojis with the stars in the eyes, and Ali Abdelaziz did say, "Abu Dhabi, here we come." Has this fight been booked for July 11th?
They were negotiating. That was the only thing that I knew. And hopefully it has been booked. If it has been booked, I will be thrilled. But not that I know yet.
No worries. One of the things I'd like to ask your opinion about is fighter pay during these times, because, of course, you've seen a lot of high-profile fighters: Jorge Masvidal, John Jones, Henry Cejudo, Sean O'Malley, Cub Swanson, Gray Maynard. The list goes on, all bringing up their own personal stories and their own grievances about fighter pay, notably the revenue split between the fighters and the UFC. Now, you fought in a lot of promotions all over the world. What's your take on fighter pay as it pertains to the UFC and the current discussions that are going on social media and in interviews?
I think the difference between UFC and the other leagues is that the other leagues get a share of the whole revenue. And like NBA, NFL, and the MMA fighters, we don't get that at all. We do an independent contract, and then it is what it is. We fight, we get paid when we fight, and if you don't fight, you don't get paid. And if you win, you get more. If you lose, you don't get as much. And it's hard. I would like to be different, but it's not. And they tried to do a manager union the other time, and one of the managers leaked all the information. So you can't trust those people. As the moment, it is what it is. Those guys, I understand, like Cub Swanson and those guys say, they say in a smart way, but the way that the the way that Masvidal and Jones are acting, they're just looking for themselves. They're not complaining for, oh, everyone should get more paid. No, I want to get more paid. And everyone should get paid more, have a salary, and do only MMA, not do another job on the side to pay your bills. But the industry will evolve, and hopefully in a few years, the new fighters will enjoy a better pay structure.
Hopefully, and I definitely agree with you that fighters should be getting paid more. I definitely agree with you, and I like the idea of a fighter's salary so that you're able to supplement your income without having a secondary job. You mentioned that there was a previous attempt to form a union, and that didn't go well. Are you in support of forming a union for the fighters?
Yeah, that would be good. I think, like, the police has union, everyone has union, all the career have union. White fighters doesn't have one, but nobody want to step in to do it, and it needs to be a big enough name to do that. Because if the small fish try to do that, they'll be smashed by the by the by the by the promotions. So it needs to be a big name, but nobody's willing to do that and sacrifice themselves for the greater and the good of everyone.
Yeah, it's definitely a difficult issue, a lot of obstacles there, and it will take a lot of sacrifice from the people who decide to put their names on something. So I can definitely empathize with that. Now, obviously, your career is going great right now. A lot of wins in a row, a lot of finishes in a row, and that knockout, because we have that complete toolbox. Now, we talked about wanting potentially a Bryce Mitchell or a Ryan Hall next, but I'd like to go back a little bit instead of going forward. When you were in One Championship, there were some issues there with Evolve MMA that led to your departure from the organization. You then signed with Titan FC and were signed to the Contender Series after a Looking for the Fight episode with Dana White at Titan. Obviously, a win on the Contender Series. Now you're in the UFC. Things are going great. Can you talk a little bit about that departure from One Championship and how things with Evolve MMA factored into it?
After my last fight with the One Championship, why was Evolve MMA, where I beat Timothy Nastyukin. I was already decided before. That was my last fight camp there that I wasn't going to live more in Singapore and teach Evolve MMA. I was going to come back to Brazil and keep evolving. I was feeling that I was just not evolving as much as I would like. I wasn't improving. It was a lot of work, and I wanted to pursue my fighter dream. If I want to be a professor, I can do it. I'm a professor now, but I have my own time. I teach on my own time. It was a lot of work. So I spoke that with the Evolve founder, and things looks like they were good. We set it up. I won the fight. We were supposed to have a title fight, and then after that, it was just like 2 years almost of just they push me around. Hey, are you going to fight this day? And okay, so I was living in Brazil. I traveled to the US, came to Black Zillions, pay for tickets, stay here, and do the whole camp. And then the contract never arrived. That happened a few times, and never fought for the title. And then my manager, Gilbert Faria, at the time, he was having so much problem with them, dealing with them, and they just kept screwing with me until they changed the promotion. I have to kind of threaten them to tell the whole story that I will never tell. But when I retire from fighting, I let you guys know everything about that. But yeah, then they give me a fight, but the fight was already like in a lightweight division because they changed the weight cut system. And I was 100%. It was a super tough opponent in Muvlit Hezbollah Heavy. But I had to take the fight. It was like 19 months without training coming. So I was kind of forced to take the fight without being 100%. No excuse there. Muvlit did great and dominated me that night. And then I was booked on a day to expire my contract against Magomed Idrisov, another like tough Russian, and it was a very close fight. I thought I won the fight, but I lost in a decision in Macau. And after that, next day my contract expired. They wanted to renew. I said, no way, no way. There's no renew on this. You guys got me stuck here for a long time. And then I have to find nowhere to breathe. I went to Titan FC. Lex was great. We did 2 fights there, and Contender Series, UFC, and the career got back on track.
Right. And just to be clear, do you believe that your departure from Evolve and the issues that you had there led to one championship? And for those who are watching and aren't familiar with one championship, the founder and chairman of One Championship is also the founder and is actively involved in Evolve MMA. So there's a duality there. Do you believe that by leaving Evolve, it forced One Championship to enact retaliation by giving you tougher fights or not letting you compete?
I didn't force anything. They did that by their own choice. And they give me always tough fights. It wasn't the point. They just didn't do what they're supposed to do. They have a contract for me, and the contract they give me offer fights, and you just need to follow your word. If everything is good and I'm supposed to fight for the title, you need to give me the title shot and not put me in the freezer for quite amount of time just because you want. That's not how business should work.
Right. And just one final question, going back to the UFC now. If you are to get a Bryce Mitchell fight or a Ryan Hall fight now, Ryan Hall has been a little bit hesitant to fight people who are ranked below him in the UFC's rankings. But if one of those fights was to materialize and you were to win, and knowing you, it would probably be with an emphatic submission or a dynamic knockout. What do you think is next for Herbert Burns with that next win?
Top 15 for sure. Top 15, top 10. I think Herbert's already ready for that. But I believe in my skills. I always did. I think if I had the chance to fight for the title on my previous organization, I would be the champion there. I am championship material. I've been training very hard, been improving a lot everywhere. I don't take it easy on the training. I keep pushing myself everywhere on mental issues, on physical conditioning, on technique, kickboxing, wrestling, jiu-jitsu. I'm been pushing everywhere, and I feel like ready to face the toughest guys in the division. Evan Dunham was a great test, man. I managed to show how good I am and how improved I am, and I'm ready to do that against the number of guys in the division.
Absolutely. Herbert, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it, and I hope those fights come through for you.
All right. Thank you.